The lunge. One of, as you look through the exercise video, you see it's loaded with lunges. Lunges was brought on by Gary because he had to think of an exercise that was realistic for people. A lunge is basically a squat. It's just a split squat. We lunge when we walk. It's just a different level of integrity. We lunge when we go upstairs, downstairs. We lunge when we bend down to pick something up. It's all different levels of lunge. So it's not that classic deep lunge that we're talking about. However, that's what I want to demonstrate this now, because somebody should be able to show this proficiently to have true function rather than dysfunction. But as we go along, you'll understand that you can tweak the exercise to turn on the friends, more of the friends, so we can get closer to that ideal lunge if they can't do that right now. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate how we would want to ideally have somebody lunge to get more out of one joint over the other. So I'm going to demonstrate from the side. So as we lunge, we want to keep our torso upright. We always want to train good posture, okay, which is a spinal curves, head on top of the shoulders, ear, shoulder, hip in line, proper lumbar curve, proper thoracic curve, okay. That's level 2 that we get in, MTS level 2 that we get into more of that diagnostic and training component. But just think about good posture, and as you lunge, you're going to go in and you're going to drop vertically down, okay. Now, a lot of people say, gosh, I'm not supposed to let my knee go over my toe. That is true to a fact, especially if it causes pain or dysfunction. If we want a plane or movement tweak, we want to involve the hip more, then I would drop vertically down and I would come back up. Okay? If I want to get a little bit more knee excursion, which is a little bit more involvement in the knee, then yeah, I would lean forward and have that knee go further towards the toe. As long as there's adequate ankle motion or dorsiflexion, I can do that. If you see somebody picking up their heel, loading the front of their foot and loading their knee, then no, that's probably not where they are. So you'd probably want to drop them back, get more out of their hip, do some functional flexibility for their ankle to allow for proper movement. Now, as you notice, as I lunged, I didn't collapse. This is the big thing. I want to make sure that we don't compensate through spinal movement, that we're up here. We're dropping down. We're getting good adequate range of motion. That's that range tweak, full range, mid-range. See, it all goes back. It all feeds in the same stuff. But if we want to start involving arms, like you noticed in the nomenclature we didn't cover in the chapter, that we start reaching. And that's our tweak, that's our drivers, that's our plane tweaks. So, if I reach a knee level, okay, I'm still here. I still got good dorsiflexion. My knee is over my toe, but not excessively. I'm moving through my hips. I'm reaching here, but my spine is still in neutral. I'm not collapsing. That's the most important thing, is not allow that spine to collapse. Make the hips move, the ankle and the knee move in their proper ranges of motion, and allow your spine to be stable as going through movement. Same with a posterior overhead reach. Okay? Arms up over your head, good spinal motion. I wasn't extending from the back, I extend from the mid-back. And we'll be going over some joint by joint mobility, stability type thing when we get in with our one-day seminar. Now, if I give you an anterior lunge, or facing you rather, the one major component that you want to look at is whether that knee does that. That's a big no-no. We don't want that to be the case. We want it to track right over the second toe, be in line, and with your hip. Okay, you don't want to see any of this stuff, any of this torsion that goes on. You don't want to see too much of this. Okay, that's not proper either. So we want to have it right in line so that knee becomes a hinge joint like it's designed. Right? If you do see some of that, it sets us up for mobility and or stability issues, particularly strength. When we get into muscle function, you'll understand that. If I was to lunge and my knee goes in, I may be weak in the glute that can't decelerate this enough and it actually goes too far in. I may hyperpronate from my foot that allows that to go in. So we want to make sure that they're staying nice and stable. One tweak that you can do if you see a client that does that, they collapse in, you can simply do an arm driver that drives you back out, keeps you right in neutral. Remember, driving the body to get a desired chain reaction, that's okay. But the idea is here, progress to here while that knee is behaving themselves, and even here. See, my knee still goes forward, but I have enough motion in my body that I can reach over here. Remember, we don't want that. So that's a very important component of the lunge. The lateral lunge follows the same rule. It's a little different because the standing leg stays straight. So if I was going to the lunge, my hips drop back, this knee stays straight, foot stays on the ground. The knee is about over midfoot. Depends on how much I can get my hips back. My spine stays in line. One thing you look out for this is if that knee collapses and that foot rolls. And I have some mobility issues here, that they're not able to keep that knee straight. If they do that, you've got to correct them, because that will wear on the inside of the knee. Right? If I did my anterior reach at waist height, I can get my hips back farther. And I can get lower into it, get a bigger stretch here. This is where my dysfunction is. I'm not great at it. But if I did a posterior overhead reach, okay, I can't get too far down, but my knee will extrude over my foot further. As long as I have good ankle motion, I'm okay. Builds a quadricep. But if my heel comes up, I can't tweak them that far. So adhere to the joints. Make sure we train within the joints ranges of motion, and make sure that everything stays in the proper plane that they are. And again, this will make more sense when we get into joint by joint theory. All right. Transverse lunge. Basically, we can pivot anything that turns our body. This leg stays still. We can go R90. Same rules apply. The knee stays in line with the foot, and I move right into it. Now I'll excurge a little bit more on this one, but that's mobility. However, I can pivot too. That will get more into the hip. Okay, so I'll do that again. If I pivot here, I drop down, so I get more of my left hip than my knee. If I choose to open my hips up, I just get a different lunge. I mobilize the hip here, I externally rotate this hip here, still working the glutes, but more the adductors. Two different lunges, both transverse plane lunges. I'll probably add more and more to the lunges, especially when I start getting your feedback, and give more video casts of the exercises. Thank you.